They put out an article on the organizations and the bodies, government bodies that Musk is going after, showing that just how many of them have oversight or have lawsuits, pending lawsuits against Elon Musk companies, which is just, it's corruption front and center. This is how corruption works. This is him trying to get rid of the government bodies that would regulate him even slightly. And I have often pointed out that these regulatory bodies, many of them have been captured, many of them have been partially captured, many of them have been defanged. So they'll bring lawsuits against someone like Elon Musk or against SpaceX or something about labor practices. And then after, 5 or 10 years, they let's say they win, let's say they don't lose, let's say they win. And then Elon Musk has to pay a fine of $10 million or whatever he makes in an afternoon, or it's actually way more than that in an afternoon, but whatever he makes in 15 minutes. And so in that way, these regulatory agencies don't largely serve their purpose, but that doesn't mean Musk doesn't want to wipe them off the map so they no longer regulate his businesses. Also, this is combined with the fact that Musk is one of the biggest human beings to suck off the government teat. He gets more government welfare than anyone in the world, I think, just about. He has government contracts, massive government subsidies, kept Tesla in business for years when they were making zero profit, so he could have his swastikars. And it's a bit ironic. He is now in government in order, and one of the main purposes that he's excited to be there is to wipe away these agencies that have lawsuits against his companies. But at the same time, our government is heavily subsidizing Elon Musk. Trump firings hit agencies with oversight over Musk's companies. And they have a chart here showing the agencies that have oversight. Transportation Agency has lawsuits against SpaceX, fines, Starbase review, lawsuits, complaints. Department of the Interior also regulates SpaceX. Department of Justice has lawsuits against SpaceX. Department of Agriculture has lawsuits against Neuralink because they're abusing animals. I don't know all the details, but I know what they do to monkeys and pigs is pretty horrific. National Labor Relations Board, which Trump has just made impotent, made it impossible to function. They have many complaints against Tesla. Tesla has more labor complaints against it and more like factory injuries and factory harm and all that than the following 4 big car companies combined. So way more. It's not that okay, you have a big company, there's going to be some injuries, there's going to be some labor disputes. This is like 4 times as much other car companies, even though Toyota is a way bigger car company. Toyota puts out something like 10 times as many cars as Tesla does. And yet Tesla has way more labor complaints and injuries and everything else. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has lawsuits against Tesla. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which Trump has just shredded, has complaints against Tesla. Securities and Exchange Commission, which so-called regulates Wall Street, but it doesn't do it at all. Investigation on Neuralink has a lawsuit against X, lawsuit against Elon Musk, really, at X. Defense Department has issues with his security clearance. Federal Election Committee has complaints against him. Office of Government Ethics, which Trump is shredding, has complaints against him. The events of the past few weeks have thrown into question the progress and outcomes of many of those pending investigations on his companies. The inquiries include the Federal Aviation FAA's fines of SpaceX, Security and Exchange Commission lawsuit against Musk for $150 million, National Labor Relations Board, 24 investigations into Musk companies. So this is how Trump kneecapped the Labor Relations Board. Is he fired 3 officials at that agency, which made it so they no longer have a quota. So they don't have enough people to actually do anything. Now, when the NLRB isn't functioning, that means all of the corporations and the factories that are abusing workers, there's no one to regulate them. There's no one to come after them. They can just keep abusing workers, Musk included. Of course, as I've mentioned many times, many of these things weren't doing a lot to begin with. I mean, they weren't doing nearly enough. Now, gutting them is a corrupt move, and it's violates everything that we should stand for. if we want to have any kind of government. You would want a functioning commission, a functioning SEC that would actually have some sort of regulation of Wall Street, but they don't do it, or they're defanged, or they're in bed. We saw what they did with Bernie Madoff, right, over the years. Like, that's how corrupt Wall Street is. It's just they're in bed with the SEC. So, of course, the SEC is not going to actually regulate them. But even this slight bit of regulation that does happen is too much for these ruling parasites, these titans of greed. And Trump and Musk are doing everything they can to wipe all these agencies away. So, important thing to know. But people are fighting back. People are protesting. There are people across this nation fighting back, and I think we all need to unite, and it doesn't need to be just an anti-Trump thing. It should be uniting for a better world. It should be uniting into a different way of organizing this system that isn't so exploitative, that doesn't destroy everyone's lives. You have to break yourself of this. No, we just stop Trump and we win. We just stop fill in Democrat here and we win. Break yourself of that garbage. It needs to be fighting for something. It needs to be fighting for a better system, for a better world. It needs to be fighting for a world where money does not define everything. Because at the end of the day, as long as your system is controlled by those with the most money, then the people with the most money they're always going to be the most corrupt or the most sociopathic or the most willing to step on everyone else's throats. And so if that's where the power is, you're always going to be fucked eventually. So we've got to think outside of the system that we've been handed. This system of industrial capitalism has been around for 100, 200 years, and it has pillaged this world ravenously. The market system has just ripped everything apart. It views everything as just dollar signs. So speaking of people fighting back, I did want to cover this. Thousands across the U.S. have been protesting Trump and Musk's policies. Again, I think it needs to go way beyond Trump and Musk. If you fall for the just Trump bad thing, then you are not seeing the full system. But anyway, and this is some great photos. We're talking thousands in every state. I think pretty much every state. And it is great to see people fighting back again, standing up. A lot of these protests had to do with defending immigrants, which I think is also a very important cause. This country is made up of immigrants. Not to mention nation states are a bunch of bullshit. Nationalism is a brain parasite. But a lot of the protests have to do with protecting immigrants. And throughout our history as the United States, immigrants have made up about 10, and this time first generation. We're almost all the immigrants, unless you're Native American. But first generation immigrants, meaning born somewhere else, are historically speaking 10 to 15% of the American population. And that is the same now, meaning we don't have many more first generation immigrants in this country than we did 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago or 50 or 100. For the most part, over the course of America's history, 10 to 15% immigrants. And that is part of what for the things that we've done well as a country, that's part of it. Meaning, I don't mean we've always treated immigrants great, but I mean immigrants are a key part of this country, and nation states are bullshit. Just a reminder, because I like to actually get down to the truth. I know a lot of independent media people and, of course, mainstream media don't want to do that. They want to just tell you either immigrants good, immigrants bad, and never mention that the whole idea of immigrant is based on stupid, dumb nation states. But anyway,